before we started recording?
Look, it's called spring break. I actually went to a restaurant and got dinner and ate at a leisurely pace before the show.
Whoa,
Wow.
dude.
Crazy, right?
You guys can't, like the folks at home can't see this, but I'm making the mind blown.
Don't get that excited. Next week, I'm back to my late self. Welcome to On Time, Everyone Racers, a show designed for the world of low-dollar racing and oddball car culture. It doesn't matter what kind of a Lemma Champ or Lucky Track Dog you run, SCCA or NASA, we don't discriminate, as long as you drive it hard and built it yourself. Join us each week for tech discussion, tips, tricks, news and notes in the world of low-dollar endurance racing, and whether it's on the spot, hella sweet, or we're lucky enough and mental gives us just the tip, we're sure you're going to giggle a little and learn even less. Everybody report to the paddock.
This is Chris.
This is Chrissy.
I'm Jeff.
And I'm Mental. And we are Everyone Racers. Folks, thank you so much for coming back and listening to another Dead Elvis episode of this podcast. It is episode 77. Chrissy,
Was that in the notes and I missed that? Dead Elvis?
Somebody put it there for me and I saw it. And Chrissy, I'm kind of where you are back when we were doing like episode 50 and you're like, I can't believe we're still doing this. I kind of can't believe we're still doing this. So folks, thanks so much for making this possible. If you're not driving, don't forget your E1r bingo card. We have our newer version available. And at the same time, if you've got some catchphrases you want to see up there, get a hold of us on one of our social medias.
I want to know how many people are actually playing.
That's a good question. Folks, let us know. Otherwise, we'll just keep it to ourselves, and then suddenly we'll hear someone say bingo, and not well.
We don't keep it to ourselves.
Play it.
Our guests do play it. Yeah.
So remember, Santiago was playing it, and somebody else was playing it too. Eric.
Do you only play if you're on the show?
And like Bill Fisher had the most unenthusiastic. Oh, by the way, I got bingo. Kind of a deal. But yeah. So let's kick this off with what you working on, Jeff.
So it was my birthday weekend this weekend. I turned, I think, 47. I have to do the math.
Oh my God, that's so old.
What?
No, 46.
Shut it.
I was born in 72. Everybody else do the math. I'm too tired to do it.
Old.
I know, I'm old.
No, actually,
47.
no, you are 47 because you're
right?
younger than I am, and I'm 48.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I spent the weekend with the wife. We did our traditional sushi and a movie date with the son, and the 10-year-old decided, hey, I want to try that sushi stuff. That's good. Give me some more.
Yay.
So that's going to cost us some money. So add that to the things that cost Jeff money and don't work out well.
Or you could spend the rest of his teenage years taking him to expensive restaurants where he orders chicken fingers.
Yeah, no, he's not that kind of. Well, he is that kind of.
Yes,
Pizza.
he is.
He's totally we had a doctor once. We were complaining about what he ate, and they said, "Oh, he's a white eater." We said, "White? Yeah, white bread, pasta, chicken nuggets." Yes,
I love that. That's
macaroni and cheese.
Yeah, macaroni and cheese.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I did sneak out on Sunday and do some work on the new tow pig. In case you were not listening, I got a 2011 Nissan Titan, which has a little bit of a weaker differential, a little undersized. So getting the right kind of oil in there is very important. All of the people on the Nissan blogs basically say AMSOIL or Royal Purple, whatever they call that crap.
Is there a blog where people actually recommend AMSOIL?
Yeah.
Is there a blog that people either say that you should use Royal Purple?
Yes.
No.
Yes. So
No.
so I searched
Hit them in the face.
high and low
with a
to
jug
find
of T5.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I searched high and low because what they say you want is fully synthetic without friction modifier because it is an electric locker. I don't know. That's what they say. So I searched high and low
on the internet.
Yeah, I know. I searched high and low for a local AMSOIL dealer because I was not putting that Royal Purple crap in my diff. And I just have to call them out and say, whatever the frick AMSOIL's business model is needs to die, and they just need to start putting it in stores because
it's Tupperware. It's the Tupperware business model. It's or what's
Amway.
Thank you. It's the Amway. And this is always my thing. If your products are so good, why can't I buy it in a store?
Yeah. So
You can
I
buy it
searched
at
high and
the
low.
Napa Auto Parts here in Birdsboro.
See,
Yeah.
our Napa didn't have it.
Mm-hmm.
Does it?
Okay.
Ours
All
is
right.
better. That's why.
I'm going to back off my AmSoil if they're selling it in a real store.
Well, I think it's just
So-
because the guy that owns the Napa Auto Parts decided to
It's
sign up to
decided-
be a distributor. and-
Exactly. They don't have
Right.
any national distribution.
Yeah.
So I got to tell you the story, though. So I took the lovely and talented Jennifer, who is very over the entire race car thing for the last, like, I guess we've been racing like 10 years, probably about 8.5 of those years.
Roughly right after I do. I think,
Exactly.
which you guys-
So we're like, I have to go to this place. I talked to them. They're there, but they're only there right now. I've never heard of it. And we had to like drive into the woods off the highway. And we were definitely going to like lose a kidney. And there's a lady there who's like, I smoke a lot of cigarettes. Don't get too close to the dog and make sure he can see your hands or he might bite you. I was like, what? That's a cute dog. No way. So then she says, yeah. Oh yeah. You called. Cash only. I don't know how to use the credit card machine.
Nice.
It's not like so it's like this big speed shop in the middle of the woods. They open the garage door. There is like awesome restoration projects and drag cars, and guys are in there wrenching and welding on a Saturday, and it's this like old dust covered speed shop. And I was like, this place is really cool. Please don't steal my kidney. I said, I'll be back because you're the only AmSoil like guy I can find in the whole South Jersey. She says, yeah, I think our AmSoil distributor is dead. He won't return our calls. So even they don't have it anymore. When we're out, we're out. So, yeah. So on Sunday, I changed the oil in the diff. I glued a bunch of the little things and took care of a lot of the little, like, there was a big pile of goo on one of my wheels that I think was making it out of balance. I don't know where that came from. I had to, like, glue a bunch of stuff. But anyway, enough of that. The UPS man has been busy. I've received brake parts, kill switch, toe strap, all kinds of stuff like that for the Z coming up wrenching weekend. So I'm very excited.
Cool.
That was it. Chris, why don't you talk about real work?
Well, yeah, I've been doing all Civic all the time, really. Anytime I'm not working, eating, sleeping, it's working on the Civic. So I'm deep into wiring harness hell. Both the harness that's splayed out over several pieces of plywood and sawhorses in the garage bay where the Mercedes usually lives in. That one's actually okay now that I've traced every single wire through it. I need to add a couple. But I have almost all the wires in the inside of the car out of their looms and spread all over the place, trying to move things and reconnect things and wire in a motor from much newer than the chassis that didn't ever belong there. Yeah. So.
And what computer is running that thing? The computer that came with the motor?
No.
Or standalone? Or
No.
that old ODB01
No.
piece of junk? No.
None of the above.
None of the above.
It's a computer from something else.
Let's
Yeah.
just
All
hope
right.
it all works.
This is the most cobbled together because we're trying to do it on the cheap, you know? Sure, you can go buy it all from the one make, but that's the one everyone wants, and those are the expensive ones. Or, well, so if I get the one thing from this weird car and the other bit from this weird car, it all works out. Yeah. So, mental, yes.
If I may, and I drive onto Dobbins Air Reserve Base where they built all the F-22s, and one of the things they're getting rid of now is all the wiring diagrams. And basically they're 4x8 sheets of plywood with screws put into them, and all of the different places that the wires need to go. And the idea behind it is they can quickly replicate any wiring harness from, and I'm guessing these are probably C141 wiring harnesses.
by like putting them on the board, like, you need a red one that long, so put it on there and then cut it there. That's interesting.
Exactly. And then they've got all the connectors on there. And recognizing that this is making immense more work for you now, but we're and I say we, pointing really to you guys, we're kind of committed to this engine swap. So I would think like 1 or 2 wiring harnesses is probably a good thing to go. And God forbid something happened to this frame, we're sticking with this formula and we're just going to get another EF hatch.
Who does 2 wiring harnesses?
Yeah. No, I'm doing this once. That's
No.
it.
Why if a wire goes
I
bad,
agree.
you
I had
figure
no
out
idea
the
where he
wire
was
goes.
going.
Yeah, no, I am never
check off
making
on your
another one of
bingo
these
card.
again. Mental tells a story that goes nowhere.
Something, yeah, pretty much.
No, I am never doing this ever again.
It went someplace, and it went right.
It was just a bad.
It went right to the 4 places you guys disagree.
I'm just going to tell you to shut up now, because then we can check that off the list too. So, yeah. Anyway, wiring hell. Eric Kritzler was up. He was helping work on the car on Sunday. The radiator is in. The oil system is in. I've also simplified a lot of things in the car. Like I yanked all the evap stuff. I yanked some other air assist valves and things. So I've just been kind of trimming the whole thing down. I got the last pulley I need to put the serpentine belt on. I've been now working on making a baffle for the oil pan from scratch, like an actual proper working baffle, Mental, that doesn't restrict checking the oil, which would be nice.
That should go on the bingo card.
Yep.
Look, I get it. I blew up the race truck.
Yep.
I saw
put in axles, put in radius rod. So things are moving. Parts are ordered. A bunch of them are going to be here tomorrow and Friday. So we're going to have lots of stuff to do this weekend. So progress continues. Sending the ECU to get tuned tomorrow for a bass tune, so I can start it up before it gets tuned better. Yeah.
And on that note, I actually my baseball game got canceled Friday, so I will be leaving here about 1 because I've got to go drive a field trip. So I will be actually arriving, inappropriately late on Friday night, but early enough to start work Saturday morning.
Cool.
That's about the time I'm going to arrive.
I'm sure we won't be up. Yes, I'm sure we'll be asleep. No.
And that's fine. And honestly, that's assuming I don't just pull over someplace and rack out and go to sleep.
It's probably a good idea, actually.
No, if you make it.
But in any case, Saturday morning, let's start working.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
All right, man. So what are you working on?
So I actually, before I get into this, so for the second year in a row, the marksmanship team that I used to coach, and I drove the bus last Friday, they are going to the postseason. They scored 6th in the region, which is enough to qualify for them for postseason, which I'm going to be honest, they're going to get their heads handed to them. And that's fine, because 3 years ago when I took over the program, we had to give up 4 matches because we couldn't even field a team. Their average is slightly down because they've got 7 new shooters, but all of them are shooting over 200 out of a possible 300. That's actually pretty good. So it is awesome. I'm very proud of that. Very proud of the Etowah marksmanship team. Sunday, rolled on up to Atlanta Motorsports Parks to hang out with the Hoggers. And I didn't realize this because I just drove up there to work on their super secret, not really secret 2019 GRM Challenge car. And actually, Matt put me in his Spec E30, coaching 2 of his buddies and taking them on hot laps around the track. I'm like, well, I would have brought my own helmet if I didn't known that. So cool. As payment, because they're one of the investors in the Primal Racing School, which is the Radicals that they have up there, I said, well, then is the Radical going to come out and play? And he said, well, it can, because I'm one of the investors. Chrissy,
you're on mute.
Sorry. You sent us the world's smallest video.
It actually, that wasn't me. That was Matt. Matt sent that video.
I don't know how that could happen.
It was about the size of my thumbnail. Yeah.
And it wasn't
literally
any
a thumbnail.
bigger. It was like this big. So
it
was fun to see.
It was full equipped on mine. A Radical is a Hayabusa powered, purpose built, downforce, open cockpit racing car with a paddle shifter.
Non-formula, full covered fender, covered wheels,
but again, an open cockpit.
Barely.
Yeah, barely.
And it's a full active aero downforce car. They also make them with V8s, but I only got to drive the 1300 Hayabusa powered one, and wow, I feel like someone that just tried heroin for the first time and really, really liked it. I'm looking at everything in my house that I could sell to afford one of these things because they are frigging amazing.
Way back when we were still taking applications for the team, the people who don't know, someone sent us like proof that they could be on the team by sending like their hot lap on, I think it was on Summit Point in their Radical. And Chris and I were like going through the applications and we watched that video and went, no, this guy is not prepared for what we're doing.
To drive a boat at IOE pace.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right, and I'll give it because you know how I feel about the boat. The boat is always got to. If I see the boat anywhere on social media, I'm always happy about the boat. So I think I'm straddling that line quite well.
The boat made everyone happy, really.
Yeah. But if you don't follow the Hog Nor guys, Fast Canoe 43 on the Instagrams, they're not keeping it secret. Just basically, he doesn't want to do a build thread and have the internet robot arms go, that does not look like a $2,000 car, blah, 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 which it totally is. It is a legit build. We ripped 800 pounds out of this pig.
No.
Oh, yeah. In fact,
is this the one they picked
that.
up in a couple states away and drove home with limited gears?
Totes.
Okay.
It is exactly the same. And if you look on their Instagram, they handed it over to Bobby Orr.
Insta what?
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 Get it?
What?
They handed it over to Bobby Orr on Monday, the stunt car guy.
Say the Bruins player?
Yeah, it had him run it through.
Hockey reference.
It's pretty awesome. And then finally, I'm planning a road trip this weekend, but I'm looking at Chrissy's update. No, you know what? Maybe I'm going to stay home.
Shouldn't have done it last week anyway.
Go, Chrissy. He gave you the
Yeah, so after last Wednesday, I was quite under the weather and it only got worse from there. So I had the flu last week. I stayed home from work on Thursday and Friday. I had a pretty bad fever. I lived on Dayquil, NyQuil. But by Saturday, I was fine. No, I'm not fine. I'm better now. My body is still recovering. I have a cough. I am better.
Somehow, I did not acquire the flu. I don't know how.
You were vitamin C and
everything.
Pilling and trying to. We were not going anywhere near each other, so thankfully, you didn't get it. So that's what I was doing most of the week. I did manage to make it out to the garage on Sunday and did some help while Eric was over. And I cleaned the oil pan to perfection. You could eat off that oil pan. It is all ready to go.
And it's straight now, too.
Oh, yeah. I smashed wood into the to undo the bend in it. Go ahead, Mental.
I was going to say, for those of you that use the phrase, you could eat off that all the time, I don't think you understand Chrissy's standard of clean. And there's a reason she's the one that prefers all her moves. And when she says you can eat off of that, for the rest of this, what that means is you can perform open heart surgery on that and not get an infection.
Not quite.
We need like a fake mental news block on on the bingo card. Can we get the news and notes? Chrissy, do you have anything else?
Now, folks.
She does. She has amazing stuff. Whatever.
Well, Chris says differently because he lives with me. He understands my occasional.
I understand the gradients of Chrissy cleaning.
The gradient of Chrissy cleaning. That's a good one.
Okay.
Anyway, I installed some grounds, did some other fabbing, did some help, and now I am prepping for a whole lot of people to come over this weekend. That's it.
News.
That's really bad.
News.
That's terrible.
Sounds like my dogs when I make a high-pitched noise.
Loved every single one of them. Santiago, if you're out there, please beware. Do not let the Stealership touch your rally car. It seems that Scion FRS and Subaru BRZ owners have a recall for some sort of valve spring issue. And a lot of them, mostly people who get their cars serviced at Toyota, not Subaru, their motors are just clanking and clanging away about a week or so after with total oil loss, failure, and totally blown motors. So you might not want to get that done.
It's a way to get a new motor.
I guess.
But it's going to be installed by the same people that just oil starved yours.
Yeah, the Drive had this article, and it's been picked up a few other places. I'm sure it's in all the Subaru forums because that's who they were quoting. They believe that just Toyota doesn't know how to split the head and like resituate the, as we know, totally crappy Subaru head gaskets, because obviously the motor is designed by Subaru and they just love head gaskets. So some sort of oil repair that doesn't get done and it's losing all pressure and clanging away. So maybe not. Or more cheaper ones on the open market later for us to buy. So
except we won't buy anything with a Subaru motor.
It's not that we're afraid of Subaru heads. It's just, well, we've done that.
We know better.
Pass.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to school you on something. I'm going to learn you something.
I'm ready.
Okay, so March is Women's History Month. So sure, okay. I run a group at my work that does a whole bunch of things that tries to talk about topics for women, and I have a group of people that are doing some pulling together some information on women, famous women that have done cool things. And I have learned so much, and it's so awesome. But this woman, I had no idea who this was, and I'm going to teach her about her. So her name is Elska Junkova, who was regarded as the greatest female in Grand Prix motor racing history, first woman to win a Grand Prix event. So she's Moravian born, meets a racer, says, quote, "If he's going to be in love, the love of my life, then I better learn to love these damn engines." Fell in love with a Bugatti Type 30s. And so she's all about Bugattis. Cool. Started racing as her husband's mechanic. He hurts his hand. So she starts driving. And the first professional race in 1923 became national celebrity. She competes in Europe. She becomes the queen of the steering wheel. And here's the cool thing. Credited as one of the first drivers to walk around the course before an event, noting landmarks and checking out the best line through the corners. Boom.
Hold on a second. I am Googling Moravian.
It's a
country.
I think it's
it used to be
it's
anyway.
a region. It's a region of Germany.
Yeah, I'm getting Moravian as being some sort of
it's Eastern European.
church, some German church.
So if you open the Wikipedia, it says that she's born in Moravia. So I don't know. That's probably something that had moved. It was then. It's now.
It's a Czech Republic region.
Yeah. Sure, she's some kind of. She's like my people.
That part of the world is very fluid with borders and things.
Check.
Compelling. The Soviets decided they were just going to redraw all of that.
Circle gets a square. Mental is correct. Moravia is now part of the Czech Republic.
Yes.
Awesome.
Well, with a name like Elska Junkova. Czech. That's all Czech all over the place. So I learned you something.
Race results.
Great.
Okay.
So Sonoma, Lemon's race, it rained a lot. It was a shame watching that. But we had some good performances. Cerveza, BMW E28 won on laps. It's kind of getting boring. They keep winning. They're just so good. Really, it's amazing.
And honestly, and I know I'm interrupting you. It's just that they're talented drivers. They're good drivers. I mean, they stay out of everybody's way. They help people. People like having them around.
Their car is set up well. They're like, you can't say a really bad word about them. They do a great job, and they are dominating. So good for them. The Chump Ganassi Target Racing Eagle Talon actually won B. That must not have a 4G63 in it because they didn't take crank for a walk.
Of course it does.
Victory dance right now because the Talon won anything.
Look,
ever.
do you hear that? Hear that? It's the crank walking. I can hear it from here.
Not this time.
Clippity. And the Run CRV, Honda CRV, of course, won Class C. Good for them. Fantastic.
Awesome.
Black Iron Racing, they won the IOE with their Opel Kadett because how could you not give it to an Opel Kadett that runs most of the race? So good for those guys. I don't know what car it was. It wouldn't surprise me if it was something of Spanx. It was themed as a princess poster bed.
I saw this. It was fantastic. It had the pink material that
it billowed in
it just kind of flapped behind it the whole time. It was amazing.
I don't think it was Spanx. It was beautiful.
Yeah, but it looked like something Spanx could stick over the moke because that's the kind of thing that it does.
Yes.
Yeah.
It looked kind of square.
Proof of that.
Clearly somebody gets it though. They understand limits.
It looked amazing going down the track of someone in a princess bed. And but all the rain, it rained for Hoopty-Con and Radwood too, but some people were cool enough to bring their Ferraris and Lambos and stuff out, even in the rain. Good for them.
Saw that Testarossa in with the wipers on. I'm like, God bless you.
Hey, that's good new tech money that they're willing to do that. So, yeah, good for those guys. So,
all right. Second shout out for our buddy Santiago. He got us the entry list for the upcoming 100-acre wood rally this weekend in Missouri. Santiago even did the math for us. 79 total entries, 36 Subarus.
Boring.
13 Fords, 4 Hondas, 2 Mazdas, 1 Speed 3, That's interesting. Better be a long roof. Two
They're all long
Chevys.
roofs.
And these Chevys cannot be weirder, so I'm going to mention them. One of them is an S10 with an LS3, and one of them is an all-wheel drive Sonic. I don't know how that happened.
No.
There's also the Hyundai Tiburon and a Lexus IS350 in the pack. So get dirty out there, people.
Cool. Fantastic.
Chrissy.
Oh, crap. Okay, so the good, well, of course, number 43, Ken Block. Oh, I don't like Ken Block. And Alex somebody. And the Hoonigan Racing 95 Ford Escort. Cosworth, he has updated substantially, but the Ford number 430, Lucy Block and his wife, and Krista Suckus in the Hoonigan 2015 Ford Fiesta R2.
Sucka what?
Suckus.
It's Suckus, but yeah.
Hey, good for her. Hope she does just as well as he does.
Gelsomino was a very, very, very successful rallier.
Extremely, yes.
Cool.
Sorry.
So there's some funny out there, too. There's Krishna Gandhi and Jake Baxter in the Jake Sucks 95 Subaru Impreza. So that's good.
Nice.
That's fantastic. Paul Johansson and Susie Little in their Archer-referenced Krieger Racing Division driving in a Hyundai Tiburon GT. I have no idea what that is, but Mental does. And Mike Erickson and Jacob Good in the Weird Beard Rally in a Lancer.
Nice.
Exactly. And interesting enough, too, there was one that just stood out to me was it's a very Irish theme. Now, the most Irish of the Irish is Seamus Burke and Dara Mullen in the Shamrock Racing 1977 Ford Escort, but also
77 Ford Escort.
Yeah,
they are not playing around. And then there's Stephen Sherry and Dole Sherry and the Sherry Racing 2002 Ford SVT Focus.
Seamus Burke is another very successful rally from the Pro Rally back when they had Pro Rally. That still exists. I don't know.
Well, back in the day, the 77 Escort actually was a good rally car.
That was the car to have. Absolutely. And they not only did they find one, so they're having two vintage cars because Ken Block went and found another Cosworth Escort and then put all new guts underneath it, and there's a whole Hoonigan Racing video on it.
Cool.
Nice.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about Lucky Dog. How about that?
Sure.
So
always a good idea.
Yeah, you've got to be a little bit curious about what happens at Lucky Dog. So we talked about what we did, but you really just need to experience it yourself. So they're going to be at the Ridge in April 27th and 28th, and it's almost sold out. There's 70 car max there, and there's the early dog discount ends March 27th. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry.
And I'll just say right here, Chrissy and I love the Ridge. It's a great track to drive. So if you're around, go do it.
Mm-hmm. And you want to get in on the discounts because that's always great.
Yeah.
The Dog Stock Camping Jamboree is coming up August 9th through 11th. This sounds so much fun. So there's outdoor fishing, boating, swimming, cornhole, RC cars, maybe some margaritas. And there was a whole list of all kinds of stuff that's going on at this event. And they said everything but the race cars. So you're going to go have a blast. Make sure you have to register. There's RV and parking and all that kind of fun stuff. There is.
Could you imagine? Sorry, I want to interrupt. Could you imagine how drunk our race team would be if they didn't have to stay sober enough to race the next day? If we all just went camping.
Yeah.
That's
the weekends we go to Greg's Lake's house.
Yes. Yes.
It was like Caligula.
Or Atlantic City.
Atlantic City. That was what I was going to say. Okay, but it sounds like a great time, and it's with great people. It sounds awesome. All right. So also, Lucky Dog is now racing in Canada. How is that? How awesome would it be to add that to your resume? Just so cool. So they're going to be at Calabogie. Is that how you say it?
Mm-hmm.
I had to look it up. It's 3 hours north of Syracuse, in case you're wondering. And they're going to be there in early May and late August. And they're going to be in Canadian Tire Motorsports, which is about an hour north of Toronto, in late June. So maybe one of those closer than the East Coast, or excuse me, they're closer to you than the West Coast. And you'd be racing in Canada, which just sounds like a great thing that you should just brag about. So I got all this information from racelucky.com. So they have this information more on registering, how to do it right, and ultimately how you can have fun. So splurge a little, do something for yourself, experience a new track and a new series. Just do it.
The Calabogie race is probably way closer to Bill Fisher and friends if they wanted to go there instead of the West Coast. Just a thought.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think he kind of wants to go to the West Coast, though.
I think he does. But I'm actually looking up now. How far is this from us?
Syracuse is probably 6 or 7 hours.
No, Syracuse isn't that bad. We bought the BMW up there.
I feel like the Z would do really well.
Yes, it is 3 hours north of Syracuse. Between Rochester and Syracuse, and it's up in the top corner.
I'm the only one with a beard, but I'm stroking it.
That's weird.
Contemplatively.
Think of the maple syrup we could bring back. While Chris is looking up.
Is that what you're excited about?
Those local to Mental.
Mental is excited about stroking. That's going in the show end there.
If you're nowhere near Syracuse, New York, but you're near Atlanta, the 37th annual Atlanta International Auto Show, Atlanta Spring Thing, you can shop and compare hundreds of new cars, trucks, and SUVs from over 24 manufacturers in one location. They'll be debuting models for 2020, the latest in alternative fuel vehicles, and great special attractions like the GM Future Liner. It's only once a year and 5 big days, so you don't want to miss it. March 20th through the 24th at the Georgia World Congress Center. Mental will be there on Wednesday the 20th, but this is not like an OEM show, but it's more like a consumer show, so it's targeted right at you if you are shopping for a car or just want to check it out. On hand will be factory and dealer representatives to answer all your questions, not spokesmodels, although some of those spokesmodels are trained very well, by the way. After the show, we're going to have Brian Medford from the Napa Know-How blog on to discuss our favorite cars for 2019 and beyond. There's some potential future live events coming from the show from somebody with really good hair. I don't know which one that'll be, but maybe a live walk through the Future Liner if Mental can remember to get his phone charged while he's there. Stay tuned to follow all the auto show's media. Links are in the show notes, and I guarantee we're going to be Instagramming the hell out of it while Mental is there, so check it out. I did also mention that this was my birthday weekend, so coming for my birthday weekend, not only did I get some random checks from my aunts who for some reason don't realize that I'm 47 and think I still need a check in the mail to celebrate my birthday. I'm not complaining.
How much was it for? Was it like
$5?
$10.
Enough to buy some tools.
Okay.
Enough to go a little crazy at the old Harbor Freight.
At the dollar store?
No, the Harbor Freight. I had Harbor Freight money.
That's good money for 47 in ants, because I got none of that.
Exactly. My wife laughs every time it shows up. What she doesn't laugh at is when I get the box from Pennsylvania that is filled with cookies. That is from Chrissy's mom. So yeah, we had 2 big boxes. There's only about 1 box left, or 2, whatever they are, little round tray things. We had 2. There's only 1 left, so one of them disappeared. Thanks, Chrissy's mom, and hi.
Hi. You're welcome.
Listener
feedback!
We need to get some real
intros. That's terrible.
It's all pigs in space, everybody, in case you haven't figured
it out. It is pigs in space. Oh, that's funny. Okay, so as usual, we had some awesome responses to what you're working on when we posted our picture of work that we were doing on in the Civic. So Dean was working on his tan and blood alcohol content. I think he was posting from a boat. Bill's working on the Capri, the 3.8 installation. Amanda's working on a fan controller on a 64 Rolls. That looked sad.
Olds, right?
Olds. Yeah.
Yeah, they said Rolls.
Olds.
Olds. Got it.
Sorry. Uncle Dave was working on installing fire suppression system. Matt Farinchek was finishing his taxes. Donnie won big at the Concours de Lemons in their 2006. Did I read that correct? 2006 Saturn Ion Red Line with the comp package.
Had numbers on the side too.
It did. It was looking. Yeah, it was pretty clean.
Yeah, exactly. He's taking good care of that.
Yep, that's why he won. He had a whole seat full of fun stuff.
Doesn't rust because A, plastic, B, Florida.
Florida?
California.
You said Sonoma.
California?
Yeah.
Oh, wrong Donnie.
Doesn't
Sorry,
rust.
I thought we were talking about Florida man Donnie.
No, other Donnie.
No.
We have that many listeners, we can't even keep track of each individual person's names anymore.
Gosh darn Donnie's listen to this show for crying
I'm sorry.
out
I just didn't realize there were more.
No, that's not a you apology. That's a Jeff apology.
Yeah, that's how you know we're getting successful. We're no longer on a first name basis with every single listener. So
we are, but it's like all the Chris's, you know.
Right? All the Donnies.
Yeah.
Okay, so Gregory was taking out the trash, a sadness picture of the well-loved Alpha being held up by a forklift at their crushing site. That was the end of that car.
And you can't see this. You can't see this there, Gregory. But I'm pouring some beer onto my carpet. My dogs are licking it all up. But for the Alpha, yeah.
Trying to rattle a little bit of my soft drink also.
No.
Okay, and Kelly was working on reducing their carb intake. So thanks for all your pictures, working on fun stuff, and hopefully everything that you were doing was successful.
Awesome. And you know what else is awesome? Suspension. I didn't have a good I didn't have a good transition there. I tried.
That's better than us just yelling at our ceiling. Main topic time. So
main topic time.
There's that too.
Today we didn't really preview this show at all. We probably should have at the top of the show mentioned, but we're going to talk about suspension and suspension settings today, and how to make that pig handle, because when you bought it, it was probably terrible, and just by slapping good tires on it doesn't make it go around the corners. But you too can have a race setup suspension just by following our somewhat technical advice. I don't think we're going to go too deep today, but we are going to talk about some of the main broad strokes of setting up a suspension. And I get to start here because I have had some of the worst suspended vehicles on the planet, including my $200 Miata. And I'm just going to say that before you start, you cannot align or put a good alignment on a car that is jello. So I paid $200 for a hella beat Miata. We called it Miracle. The bushings were dead. The control arm sucked. The shocks were blown. The mounts were terrible. The sways, even, until we changed them, were also bad. You really need to set, if you got a crap car, and if you bought it for $500, it's probably pretty crappy. You need to baseline it first.
And honestly, if you're listening to the show, you bought a crap car.
True. But there's a drastic difference between a well-handling machine with 15 years and 200,000 miles on it and your average Hyundai that's 5 years old. That Hyundai's bushings are probably still together. Mm-hmm. But that really, really old car that might even have low miles on it, the rubber deteriorates, and you really need to at least get to crappy stock fresh before you start putting any on high dollar components, because you can't bolt good things to crap. And
you can. It's just not going to work that well for you.
It's just not going to work. If things flex. The whole idea behind this is the chassis must be rigid enough for the suspension to work. And if it's rusted out like my Avalanche, you got bigger problems, and you really shouldn't start by just buying some springs and buying some shocks and buying some sways and throwing it on crap.
Yep. So we're not going to talk about any of that today. We're talking about wheel alignment, really. But it's right on the fact that, his main point of you've got to have things in decent shape to start off with, because if anything's too sloppy, you're not even going to be able to get a good alignment on it. And his Miata is a great example. I drove that not long before it went under its renovation, and the suspension was basically like a loose consortium of tribes that had a vague understanding of
they had a trade deal, right?
Right, exactly.
They didn't live together.
Yeah,
they weren't family tight.
But they talked enough. They weren't at war, but they were definitely doing their own thing at each wheel. So we want to avoid that. And so tonight we're really going to talk about what you can do to start setting up suspension with an alignment, because alignment is as basic as we get. We can't do one show on suspension setup because it would be 4 hours long and everyone would turn it off and fall asleep. So alignment's a great place to start, because really anybody can do the basic things of alignment before you even get to the advanced stuff. So that's what we're going to talk about. So the first thing is, what is an alignment? It's really about getting all your wheels pointing in the directions you want them to point. Now, the main components are camber, toe, and caster. Camber is, you've seen this on the Hella Flush Kids cars when the wheels at the top point in.
H2O fest.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Oh,
and the
yeah.
wheels at
I'm
the
excited.
top are in a lot further than they are at the bottom. That's extreme negative camber. So in a race car, you want some negative camber, but not like they do. Yes,
77 Triumph Spitfire.
Yep, I guess.
Every single one of them, negative camber.
Tons.
And that transverse leaf spring that just got weaker and weaker and weaker.
Yep. Yep. Mental, yes.
I thought they all want to be hella flush. No.
They do. Oh. When I was in Germany in the early 90s, the car to have for all the local German gearheads was the E24 chassis BMW 323. It was the Mustang GT. Same problem. Ultimately, the rear squat would always come out to where the rear tires were always horribly hella flush because they'd wear them out.
So that's camber. Everyone's seen that. Toe is, imagine you're looking at the car from the top, like you're a drone hovering over the car looking down. At the front wheels, let's say, if the front of the front wheels are pointing in, if it's duck-toed, that's toed in. If they're pointing out, then that's toed out. So you can imagine if they're towed in or out significantly and the car is trying to roll, they're just fighting each other.
Yes. This is when you learn how to ski.
Yes, pizza, French fries. Pizza, French fries.
Pizza, French fries.
Exactly. Good one. And last one is caster. Caster is basically, if you look at the wheel from the side, it's the angle between the top pivot point and the bottom pivot point. So the best way I can describe this is having positive caster, which you don't want. I think it's positive. I always forget which one. The bad one is like a supermarket shopping wheel, where the wheel kind of drags behind the attachment points. So the angle of it's forward. The good one that you want, but not to this extreme, is like a chopper, where the angle is toward the front.
The wheel is ahead of the fork.
Yes, exactly.
I'm going to be honest with you right now. Yeah. I could not have answered what is caster 2 minutes ago.
Well, now you can. Isn't that fun?
Now I can. I'm very excited.
Right. So if you have caster like a shopping cart, you don't have any stability.
Okay.
So let's just go and we're on caster. Let's talk a little more about caster. So if it's like the shopping cart one, you have no stability because it's just kind of falling behind and wagging along, and it's just not stable. And you can see when you drag the shopping cart and it just kind of moves around. You see how that happens. Exactly. Exactly, Jeff. But the other thing is when you have caster the right way, as you turn the wheel, you get more and more negative camber. Just the way the design of the suspension is. And you'll see this on, especially like Mercedes. If the wheel's turned all the way over, you'll see a lot of negative camber, particularly on the inside wheel. So you want basically as much caster as you can get for your suspension design. Usually you can't get all that much. Usually there's no adjustment for caster. Just take what you can get on it. So that's caster. Camber is one that you can adjust. That's one, on some cars you can. Sometimes you have to make things to do it. Like they have camber kits and camber plates and all kinds of different ways to change that top angle. So you want to get that to, we'll talk later about exactly about where you want to get it. But you want a little bit negative. Depends on how loose your car is, because imagine your car is stock suspension and it rolls over a lot. The whole body is moving, so therefore the wheel is moving with that. So you want to have enough camber to counteract the roll of the car, so that when the car is rolled all the way over, the wheel is then sitting level. So you're using the whole contact patch. So some of it's depending on tires and things like that, but that's the basics of that. And toe, you want all the wheels generally pointed the same direction.
Good call.
Yeah,
I like that.
Right. If you have more than, anywhere more than a quarter inch from zero, either way, it depends on, there's reasons to have it any of those directions, but any more than a quarter inch, the car's not going to drive right. So those are the basic things that you want to note for those different alignment points. And we'll get more into detail on some of them as we keep going. But why do you care about all this? Because you already are getting bored because I'm talking too much. You want your tires to work in harmony, because everything will be happier when all the tires are working together, trying to go the same way, doing what you want them to do. You're also not going to wear your tires out. We've wiped off brand new tires in one day with an alignment that was not set up right. That's not cost effective. Tires are expensive. Let's get good tire wear out of these. You also want predictable performance. If you have alignment that's wacky, the car's not going to handle like you expect. And it might not handle the same way from left turns to right turns, which makes it even harder to drive and harder to push. So you want to keep the car stable and predictable and confidence inspiring.
Unless you're a roundy rounder.
True. Absolutely. We're not talking roundy round. We're talking road course tonight, because roundy round is a whole different world, and there's things like wedge.
And actually,
I don't know any of that crap.
To argue with Jeff as he argues with Chris, but even roundy round, they do the same thing because they still want all four tires working in concert and doing the same thing. It's just that thing is slightly left of what a road course car is. So it's still the same concept.
Yep.
Yeah.
If your car is set up right, it's going to be faster in the corners because the wheels are pointing. They're working together to turn you around the corner. And if down the straights, if they're not fighting each other, that scrubbing of the tires as they fight each other costs you speed as you go straight. And lastly, it's less pressure on your suspension. If it's constantly fighting it, you're having a lot of pressure on your suspension attachment points, which can lead to fatigue over time. So those are all the reasons that you actually care about some of this, really.
Great. I have a question.
Yes.
I decided that we should talk about what are some signs that your alignment might be off.
Great. Why don't you tell us? Because you've had plenty of reasons in the past.
Well, I did, and I wanted to know if you wanted to talk about them. So here are some ideas that you came up with. So you know your alignment might be off when your vehicle is pulling to the left or right. And I have a situation going on right now, and that's how I know that my alignment is off. Uneven or rapid tire wear. I've also had this on my daily, and I had a couple, and that's why we had to take our camber out, because my camber I had camber in my wheels, and the tires were wearing, but the car looked awesome, and it was set up great for the track that I never took it on the track, and therefore I was just killing tires. So look for tire wear.
Like every one of those hella flush kids I see driving.
Well, I was not hella flush. I had some nice, just a little bit of camber, but it was too much, and it was killing the tires. Your steering wheel's crooked, and even when you're driving straight, or your steering wheel vibrates. Chris has had this issue. We had this issue with a couple of cars, actually, and especially when they try to fix it and then they don't put it back right. But really, when your steering wheel is not right when you are going straight. And lastly, squealing tires. So sometimes the balance of the car isn't what you think it should be. It might be darty, loose, understeer more than you think it should. So I'm asking this not to help you identify, but my wheels are going to be aligned soon. And I recently noticed my car was pulling to the right when I went over a bump. And I think we'll figure out it's wrong, and we'll figure out what's going on with that sometime soon.
That's actually a great thing is you might only be experiencing some of these, ill handling things when you're closer to the limit or in rough road or on a big bump.
Or
so
like 422.
Yeah, like all the time.
Which is all of those things.
All
those things. But that's what I'm saying. Like you might be like, oh, my alignment's fine because on a straight, flat, perfectly good road, if I let go of the steering wheel, it goes straight.
Yes.
Well, that doesn't really mean that your alignment is right. Because
it might not be one of the alignment.
Or it could be one of the
problem.
Exactly.
Could be one of those other things that you talked about it being loose. So let's talk about some basic target alignment settings. Like where do you want them? And this varies hugely depending on the car and the setup, but this is a rough start. So toe is the easy one. Every car has toe adjustments. Every car needs the toe set. In general, first off, you always start at the back. The back is the one that may or may not have any adjustability. If you do have adjustability, you want to get it centered left to right, and that's your base. And usually, you're going to want about zero toe in the back. Sometimes, if you want the car to rotate more, you get some toe out. Like that's how we used to get the Honda to rotate before we stiffened up the rear springs, is by towing it out. So you think about it, the wheels are wanting to point out. They want to help the car go around a turn. If it's toe in, like the NSX has, it's trying to be stable and keep that back end from coming around, so it keeps it towed in. So in general, up to a 1/4 inch either way. Usually, I like to set it up to closer to zero, and more like an 1/8 or less either way, depending on the car. Yeah, mental.
And this is going to be across the board, given what you're saying, the NSX to the Civic for front drive and rear drive cars.
The principles are all the same, but the front drives are the ones that you want to make rotate. The rear drivers are the ones you kind of want to help keep it keep it together. So like the setup on the Z from Nissan, for example, they're recommending a slight amount of toe in the rear. So that's what we'll do. We'll give it a slight amount of toe in the rear as a baseline before we start adjusting it. But and now on the front, if you want the car to be very aggressive and turn in and have very sharp initial bite when you turn in, like a lot of autocrossers run a lot of toe out in the front, so that when they turn, the inside wheel is turning even more than the outside wheel, and it's helping them just really aggressively bite into the corner.
That's interesting. I never knew they did that. If
you have too much, though, the car gets dirty, especially under heavy braking when it's all compression and all the weight is on the front. It's just going to move around on you. So that's the drawback to that. If you go toe in, the car's just going to not have the stability that you want it to have at any time, because it's fighting. It's pushing in against each other all the time. So usually you don't do much in the way of toe in the front. Usually it's 0 to toe out in the front. The back, it's out if you want the car to rotate, but usually it's slightly in to keep the back stable. So that's toe. Caster, we already talked about. Basically put it at max, because you're never going to really have enough adjustment to get too much. Camber, you're going to want usually from somewhere between 2 and 4 degrees of negative camber. And when people say like, oh, I've got more camber, they're always talking negative. No one really ever wants more, positive camber. That doesn't happen.
No, I want all my tires to wear on the outside.
Exactly. Or, unless you're racing a 1947 MGTC, and that's just how they came, Okay.
Yeah, but you didn't want it. That's just how it showed
That's just how it was, right.
Well, so, I know a whole bunch of people that have a lot of extra tire wear on the outside, or tire availability on the outside.
Because they're hella flush.
Hella flush guys only use the inside tiny bit.
So they can flip the tires over, but actually, amazingly, toe is worse for tire wear than camber. Camber over a long time will wear your tires a little bit differently. It depends on how low profile they are. But toe is much worse. Toe is like dragging the car sideways, basically, for how the tires wear. Where camber is just like putting pressure on one side of it.
Yeah, camber, you're not using the whole tire. Yeah, and toe, you're using the whole tire. You're just using it horribly inefficiently.
Mm-hmm. It's like a cheese grater.
Yeah,
I was going to say, I think a lot of the hella flush guys lose their tires because of body contact more really than wearing out.
Yeah, all the above, really.
I'm going to be the first guy to figure out how to fit a sport bike tire onto one of those hella flush rims.
It's already been done.
Then they can just flip them. And it's like the Darksiders on the sport touring board, except the opposite stuff.
It's already been done, Mental. I've seen it.
Okay.
I've seen it.
All right. Well, and honestly, it's a lot more logical than what they're already doing with square tires.
Yeah.
Cool. Am I ready? Am I next?
I think so. So basically, if your car body rolls a lot, you want more camber. If it's a race car, you really, in general, like to set up most of our cars up between 3 and 3.5 degrees of camber, if you can get it. If it's more of a street car, you want it more like 1.5 to 2, just enough to
what
give you a little
devices
bit
do you
of wear.
use to measure this?
We'll get there in a second.
We're going to get to the tools in a moment. But
I'm gonna talk real quick. I know people are furiously trying to write down the numbers that Chris just said, and they're like there's some ceramist out there like hitting rewind on the podcast. Like, I need these numbers.
He's on an airplane, so he's got time.
Here's the deal. I've never really did this before with it, except for like with Chris, like him saying, turn that 3 more times, put in another shim. Like I never really knew what I was doing until I built my Miata. And with no adult supervision, because you two were away for the weekend or something, I did it on my Miata, and it wasn't hard. I Googled it to find the process. YouTube is your friends. If you have a performance car out there, there are people arguing about the perfect specs, and they're arguing within a single degree. So if you have a Miata and you want to autocross it, there are 50 guys out there who can tell you what the settings are going to be. If you have a performance car, don't try and think about it. Start with somebody else's setup and move it from there. We used Chris's hub stands, and I followed literally the printed directions in the box, and it worked out. So don't fear that you don't understand anything Chris just said, because I didn't understand half of it. And I freely admit that you don't need to know everything perfectly. Just do it. Just do it.
It's really do it the quick and easy stuff. Just check your toe at the very least. Try to make sure it's even from left to right. Like you do that, and you're already in a better shape than most people. So, and knowing how to refine your setup to your car and your tastes is a whole other episode. We're not even going to get into that now. So right now, listen to Jeff, because Jeff is right, because there's probably something out there. But at the very least, look at your manufacturer's recommended tow settings. Do that. Look at how much camber can you get. And if you can get into the 3s, you're fine, essentially. There's your basics for really basic setup. So there's a bunch of ways you can do this alignment. So we're going to try to touch on those briefly and not get too into the weeds. The simplest thing you can possibly do, you can do on almost any car, you just need 2 people and a little bit of detail, is tape measure and the grooves of the tires. Now, this is especially good if you have a tire that has a groove that goes all the way around that's consistent.
I love center bands.
I know. Center bands are great. It's hard on a tire like in a Zenith that does not have any consistent spot that goes all the way around in it. But if you have one with any spot in it, one person with the end of the tape measure in a groove that they're going to do, same front to back, other person measuring it, and then you measure the front of the tire as far up as you can go without the tape measure fouling on anything under the car. And then you measure it at the back side. Again, same grooves as you did at the front for both of you. And as far up as you can go without fouling under the car, compare the measurements. And if it's a bigger measurement on the front, that means you have toe out. If it's a bigger measurement on the back, you have toe in. And you want to adjust the length of the tie rods, either extend them or retract them so that you get closer to 0.
Yeah, this is the easiest thing to figure out. If the front of your tires are further apart than the back of your tires, your toe is pointed out.
Yep. And some cars have the tie rods in the front. If it's a front steer, some cars have it at the back of the wheel. So I can't say if you're towed out, lengthen your tie rods. It depends on which side you are. So if you're not sure, make an adjustment. Make it the same on both sides. Like do 1 turn on both sides. Measure it again. What happened? See how far it went. Experiment a little bit, but it's nice to do the same on both sides so you don't end up having wacky toe where one wheel, it might be the right amount, but one wheel might be pointed straight to the other 3 and the other one's not. This is like what the TR used to look like all the time. None of the 4 wheels were actually pointed in the same direction, even though it was a live axle. So that's the most simple thing you can do.
Yes.
Absolutely. And mental, like when we were at NCM that one time and we were trying to talk about this, like, you can tell a quick story about that.
Well, so it was exactly that. Now, and I'm going to go into, and Chrissy's actually got some great input on this. But when
Chrissy's like, what?
Well, no, because she was talking about these are some signs. Now, it was actually something very subtle, and it's not like Hamza doesn't know how to build a car, but it was that particular track, and I'm going to talk about it more in a second. But Hamza was talking, but Chris got out of the car and said, I feel we need to make a toe adjustment. Quite simple. And actually, we didn't even use the grooves of the tires. We used the plates. And if I'm not mistaken, you can even use, if you know they're within the same width of each other, 2x4s mounted to the outsides of the tires.
Yep.
And make those measures. Make those measures the front and back. So you'll keep going there. The 2 tape measurements on that one.
Yep.
And it literally was. Now the key to this though is it's got to be patience, because you have to make those adjustments, jack the car up, set the car back down, and then we would put it in neutral and roll it back and forth.
Back and forth.
4 feet. It wasn't excessively difficult, but it probably took us about 90 minutes just to make it. Maybe a degree? What were we adjusting that day, Chris?
Oh, we were way towed out on that car. So yeah, it probably took us an hour, but we were also drinking beers and talking to people and having a good time.
It was about being patient and then getting good measurements, and then we just followed all the steps.
Yep.
It's not technically challenging at all, and it took you about 15 minutes to teach me how to do it, and it probably took me about 20 minutes to learn how to do it.
Yep. And you don't have to necessarily jack every car up, and most of ours are going to be low enough you do. Some of them you can kind of reach up under the front and get to it and do it that way, or turn the wheel all the way to the side and do it that way. But whatever you have to do to adjust it, Mental made a great point about rolling it back and forth between measurements, because otherwise, especially when you jacked it up, the suspension is not settled. It's not in its final spot, and you're not going to get a proper measurement. By rolling it back and forth, it lets the tire slip and get back to its natural state. So thanks, Mental, for that one. Another way you can do basically the same thing is with 2 plumb bobs. You take 2 plumb bobs on a string, drape them over the tire, and see where they point at the ground, and do this on both sets of tires. You need 4 plumb bobs total, 1 on each side, and then measure where the plumb bobs are, and that gives you a measurement. That's especially good on tires that don't have a good solid center groove. You could even put some tape on the ground and mark where it is and measure that way too if you're really into it. But that's a simple way. Mental also mentioned toe plates. Toe plates are around. They're simple. It's just basically a flat piece of metal that kicks out of the bottom for the tire. You get this up against your wheel, hold it tight and firm, measure with 2 tape measures, one in the front and one in the back. It immediately gives you what the measurement is. And then you can do the math and whether you're towed out or you're towed in, do your adjustments, move the car around, repeat. So those 3 ways are basically the same thing, just a different way of doing the measurements.
I just want to say that I quick checked on Amazon. A set of toe plates is like $59. Mm-hmm. There's no reason that if you have a race car, you don't have a set of toe plates because they make that job so much easier. We've stolen Bruce's so many times, I'm embarrassed that I never even looked and saw how cheap they were.
Yeah.
And it is, but if it's one of those things where it's your race car, you've been racing for a couple of years, but you just got this car or you're doing it in your garage, there's any number of straight edges that can be used in a pinch. At the track, somebody will loan you toe plates every time.
Yeah, I before I had the setup I do now, I did the tape measure in the tire tread so many times, and it gets you close. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So this is all talking about toe. With camber, best way to do camber is get a flat surface on your wheel itself, not on the tire, because the tire, way it deforms, is not going to give you a good accurate reading. But if you get it on the wheel, use the level on your iPhone, your Android phone, or if you have a better level than that that's more accurate, do it. But that's going to give you a pretty reasonable, accurate reading. So try that. And that's what camber is. Just put the iPhone vertically on a flat surface that's on the wheel and check it. See what it says.
Yeah, good old bubble level. That's how we built the Wartburg.
Yeah, totally.
That's not like the iPhone 1.
That's not a good thing to.
Oh yeah. Bubble level, tape measure.
Well,
and it was like they're there. Weld it, quick.
And also, Bill Fisher sent us the link to the Wartburg article yet again, because I love that GRM keeps digging that one up. But while it was odd, the Wartburg was extremely predictable. Once we knew it was going to do weird stuff in every corner, you just let it do the weird stuff.
Things.
Sure, no problem.
Yeah, the steering was the worst, but anyway.
It was a suggestion, really.
There was the you had to remember which way the steering column was going to shift before you made the turn, and then decide if you're going to push the steering wheel over first and then turn. That was
and then contort your ankle for the gas to get full throttle before you needed full throttle to make sure the back end didn't go in front of the front.
And then there was the full squat wiggle. And we do the wiggle. All right.
Yep. Anyway, next is a more complicated thing. It's called the string setup. If you're not sure how to do this, go online and read. But essentially what it comes down to is making a box of string around the car that is square to the car. And then from there, you use a tape measure to measure from the string to the front and backs of the wheels to see what your toe is. So
that sounds like a bad idea.
It is. Well, getting a proper square box around the car is really hard because the track width front to rear is often not the same from front to rear. So you have to know exactly what your track width is. And if your car is stock, well, okay, now it's easy. If you've done things to your car, like put an Integra suspension on your Civic, or put a boat on your truck or things like that,
it's not going to happen.
Your suspension isn't the same anymore. You don't know what your track width is, and that makes it a lot harder to set up. So if it's a common car, you can do it. Go ahead.
But this is like an old school thing that all the old hot rodders would do.
Yeah.
If you got a guy with like 25 years older than me who knows how to tune a carburetor really well, they know how to do this string thing.
Yeah, the guy racing his MGB in the 70s, this is what he was doing.
Mm-hmm. So because he didn't have these many
and it works because physics is physics.
Yeah,
like it doesn't change.
And for you young folks that might be listening, this is actually and putt and pool the only practical applications of geometry.
Okay.
Well, it helps when you're like building a roof on a shed or something like that.
Yeah,
that's
materials.
Good. Yeah,
estimating your materials usage.
Just a shed.
Yep.
That's not geometry though. That's technically algebra because you're like figuring out area and stuff.
But you need to figure out angles. There's angles. Yeah. Yeah.
Let's move on to hub stands.
Hub stands is the next thing. That's what we use mostly. It's a plate that bolts to your wheel, your hub, in place of your wheel, and the car rests on this stand that has little wheels at the bottom so it can move. And you then have full access to all of your suspension to be able to adjust things. And they have little arms on them that you put tape measures on to see what your toe is.
They kind of look like highly hyper accurate and funky jack stands.
They do. Yeah, it's like jack stands that bolt to your hubs with wheels on them. And it works great, frankly. I love having them. It makes all the suspension setup easier. Yes, Mental.
And feel free to argue with me on this one, but I know that there are people.
You're wrong.
And not just highly intelligent ceramicists that listen to this show and go, well, I'm going to skip all this crap and I'm just going to go buy the best tool for the job right away. And I would argue if you don't understand the basics, if you haven't done the plumb bobs or the toe plates or any of that kind of stuff, you really should fiddle with that before you go invest in these hub stands, because it's a worthwhile investment, but you need to understand what you're doing before you make the investment in that tool.
Yeah, they are not cheap. I've got the Paco Motorsports ones for Flying Miata, and they are excellent, but not cheap. But the ends of them have striations in sixteenths of inches, and half degree for camber. So you can measure everything with this, especially if you use there's a laser tool that come with it, and that's where we're getting into freaking laser beams.
Laser beams, yeah.
And with
yours are junks though.
My laser beams work fine.
Oh, you had to get them. We had to.
One of them broke, and I had to get another one, so that was not a big deal. Now it works great. But you can use these to shoot the laser from the one to the other to check your thrust angle. Thrust angle is the difference in where the rear wheels are pointing to where the front wheels are pointing. That's a hard thing to get.
I only learned that like 2 races ago.
Nice.
Because you showed something and you were like, man, the thrust angle is all the way off on this one. And I was like,
oh, yes.
What?
Yeah, yes, it is. Uh-huh. Oh.
So, and that's how professionals do it, is they have a thing that bolts to the hub at all 4 wheels that has optical sensors or lasers in it, and then the computer reads where those are and puts it up on a screen, and that's how the professionals do it, and they adjust it it moves that way. So, and that, speaking of Bill, I sent him a link to a guy in the GRM board who was selling a 1992 Hunter alignment machine.
Oh,
in Connecticut for $300. And I said, hey, your hangar needs this. And he said, yes, it does. So Bill just bought a $300 old Hunter alignment machine. And when you're using an alignment machine,
who's going to teach him how to use it?
Alan,
you're right.
Yeah.
Alan
when you're using an old Hunter alignment machine or hub stands.
Bill will just learn.
Yeah. Either one of those. The thing is, you have to have what's called there's plates that go underneath each wheel, or some way to let the wheel move freely. Because if you have the friction, things aren't going to move right. So like the slip plates, exactly, slip plates, or on the hub stands they have casters on the bottom of them that allow the movement. So you need to have some kind of movement when you're doing something that when it's done weighted. You have to have the movement, and so you don't have to roll it back and forth like we were talking about. That's why you roll it back and forth. So. Anyway, so those are the basic ways you can do an alignment. It's from anything from the quick and dirty to the professional, and it's just about taking a bunch of measurements, make small adjustments, ideally on both sides at the same time. Creep up on don't go way past it and come back. Creep up on the setting you want. Look up online of where it should be for your car or in your shop manual, or talk to someone who knows. And little patience, and you'll be blessed with a car that handles a lot better.
Awesome. Menta, you going to wrap this up for us?
I am. So this is we've said this a billion times, but I'm the resident arrive and drive scammer. And Chrissy gave you all the signs that your alignment might be off, but here's what you need to keep in mind as the driver. Don't diagnose the car unless it's yours. So what you want to do is not, I listened to this Everyone Racers podcast and the car is squealing, so I'm going to tell him that his alignment's off. No.
I think we need 4 degrees in the flammer scammer.
That.
Your Johnson rod needs to be re-chromed.
Exactly. And what...
Red! Number 4 ball bearings! Stat!
So don't diagnose the car unless it's yours. Then we're talking about race cars because that's what this show's about. Radio exactly what is happening, and not just what, but when. Is it only happening in turn number 3, which is why you need to learn the turns, Jeff? Or it's every left-hander that's beyond 60 degrees, or it's only over this bump, or down the straightaway. Man, this car is just sketchy as crap, and I don't want to go full throttle because I feel like it's dancing all over the place. So talk to the car's builder and let them know what's going on. And it's probably not going to get resolved right away because it's a suspension setting. And unless something really bad is happening, they're going to keep you out there and you have to adjust to it. To that end, grinding. This is bad. Don't stay out there if the car is making a consistent grinding noise like you're going all the way through turn 7 and it's going the whole time. That Jeff is there. We go. Jeff is looking for an audio aid on that one. And now I know we've got a lot of builders out there that race these cars only 2 or 3 races a year, and then they go hitch a ride with this guy or that guy over there. And you know what? I set my car up for the season. I'm good. But these things have a very insidious nature. Road Atlanta is always going to be hard on the driver's side front of your car. Front driver, rear driver doesn't matter because you're coming out of 11 into 12, and that's where all the weight gets shifted. Some of the tracks that are out there that are really, really bad pavement.
CMP.
CMP.
CMP. Exactly. CMP comes to mind. And then before the repave, Hallett stuff back in the day, or you've got cracks or bumps or things that are making hard hits to your suspension. Think about this. This is a hammer that is smacking on an adjustable bolt somewhere in your suspension. So this is actually something you're going to want to recheck. I'll be blunt and say probably before every race, you at least want to get a baseline. But what will happen, Chrissy talked about, if your steering wheel's not straight and you're trying to get the car to go straight, that's one of those things. But it's not something unless it's an obvious failure that you're going to notice. You're just going to notice it's like 1 degree, 2 degree, 3 degrees. Before you know it, you're going down the straightaway and you're looking through your A-pillar to actually look down straight ahead of the track because you're crabbing that bad, but you didn't notice because it happened over time. So get this stuff back to a baseline before you take it to the track, before you throw it on the trailer. That's my thing on there. Sorry.
It's easier to do at home than at the track
good.
too.
Does that count as,
Absolutely.
yes. Does that count as your rant that I see that you're going to do here, or is that a totally different rant?
It is a completely different
completely different mental rant.
Also known as everyone's favorite subject or topic. Just the tip.
Not even doing it.
It's springtime, folks. It's pretty outside. I don't know what the weather's like up where you guys are. All right,
It's
like 70.
getting there.
It was 50 today.
All right.
It's pretty good.
It's not freezing. Motorcycles are everywhere. Now, yesterday it was above 70. I hopped on the bike. I had to ride my little part-time job. I'm riding home, and it's not just us. While I was getting gas, I saw 2 other motorcyclists. We're all talking, and on my way home, there were 2 separate instances. I had a guy on a brand new motorcycle. Clearly a first-time motorcyclist. He's got a little. I think it was the 300 Ninjas, what they're running now. First-time biker. It was a new one. Yeah, it's the evolution of the 250 Ninja. And he comes around me, nice wide pass, because he was going a little bit faster than I was. And on his bumper, and I mean 3 feet, is a Cadillac CTS. And it is apparently just annoyed that a 300cc displacement motorcycle is going faster than he had. And he thought it was a perfectly good idea to be 3 feet from his bumper to teach him a lesson. That is a 4,500-pound fucking vehicle. If that guy has to brake, if that guy has to brake suddenly, you're going to kill him. So whatever great sin he did to you and your lovely insulated, giant shell of a vehicle, really, you need to teach him that lesson so bad that he has to die? Are you out of your mind? 5 minutes after that, I am merging back onto where 2 freeways merge. In front of me is a full dresser Harley riding 2 up. I had a full dresser Harley. They weigh as much as this Plymouth Champ I have in my garage. Yes.
Question. This is called the jargon giraffe. What the hell is 2 up?
He's got a passenger.
He's got
Got it.
On it.
Jargon giraffe.
Jargon giraffe.
You've never seen that?
No.
Nope.
Oh,
Sexual harassment panda, yes.
Introduce
Jargon
that where
giraffe,
you
no.
work. If someone says something you don't understand and you think it's jargon, you go, put your hand up like this. Jargon giraffe.
Oh, that's not a
He's
Jeff
got a
original?
passenger. So this is a Harley Davidson, and he's got it's a full dresser, which means he's got all the luggage and everything on there. This motorcycle costs more than my first house. He's riding 2 up, and he is going down the lane when an Acura goes to occupy the exact same space and then swerves over at the last minute. First, a Harley Davidson. First off, a Harley Davidson, even with the stock exhaust, has never snuck up on anybody in the history of ever. This is one of the reasons I got rid of my Harley, is because so many people are so enthusiastic about that stupid noise. And I could see the guy in his car
Potato.
waving his arms around like, where did you come from? This vehicle did not manifest itself out of vapor. It has an atomic mass. And the guy tried to occupy the space because he simply didn't look in the mirror. And while he's still doing this rant, now I roll up. I'm on a red, white, and blue, shiny, happy motorcycle. It looks like the Captain America bike. And I've got saddlebags on mine, which means it has the displacement of the Baptist choir director. So I've got giant hips. And there's no way he didn't see
fat,
me
right?
either. Exactly. And he suddenly just like blinks like I came out of nowhere. Folks, we're out. It's pretty. Motorcycles are everywhere. Just look in your mirrors. And if you're looking in your side mirrors on either side of your car and you can see the fender, your mirrors are incorrectly adjusted.
Oh, we should have a show about that.
And I get it. Especially sport bikers, there's a lot of them that are jerks, and they're doing Mach 3, and they think that 3 inches is a safe distance, and I'm sorry for them, and I wish they weren't jerks. But there's a whole lot more of us out there that are just doing our thing, and if you don't check your mirrors, you're going to kill us. End of rant.
Hey, but don't you know the best safety gear around is a Corona tank top and flip-flops?
All right, so we've got some scheduling notes as I see Jeff is picking up his speaker.
That's right.
Look on our YouTube this weekend. We are going to record a live episode on St. Patrick's Day from the C&Sim Mayhem Factory, and that is Sunday. So we're going to have a link to that on our Facebook as well. We are looking at a planning time of, let's say, because most people have to work the next day, maybe 8 o'clock.
Depends on Jeff.
Wait, we're recording Sunday at 8 o'clock?
Sunday at 8 o'clock.
I thought we were recording Saturday. That's fine, whatever.
Do you want to do Saturday? I'll change it right now.
We'll do it this weekend. How about that? Watch social media.
There you go.
Because we want to be able to tell people in case they want to tune in. So let's say Sunday at 8 o'clock. Sunday at 8 o'clock, Eastern Standard Time. And we actually do really like it when you guys interact with us. Like, oh, my God, you're talking about vegan meat. Soggy signs off. That's all funny. And then the following week is Auto Show Week. So we're going to have some live shows Wednesday the 20th in the morning. But more importantly this week, it's Jen's birthday. So our next regular episode won't be recorded until Friday the 22nd. So we appreciate your flexibility, guys.
There we go. Jen who?
My sister.
Sister Jen.
Slap you myself, Jeff.
Just saying, there's more than one Jen.
It's true. It is.
Mm-hmm.
There's the lovely and talented Jennifer. And then
got it. Thanks for downloading us. We hope you enjoyed this week's edition of Everyone Racers. We also hope you'll join us in the world of driving, racing, and building, because everyone can be a racer. Even you. If you enjoyed this podcast, subscribe. It is totally free. Then go to iTunes. Give us a 5-star rating. Even if you hate us and want to know why we eat vegan meat and not the wonderful pig that is lovely in your mouth. Give us 5 stars. Even if you hate us, tell us why. If you have any questions or show ideas, drop a comment into our Facebook page, everyoneracers@gmail.com. Thanks again, and until next week, keep the shiny side up. Unless, like us, there is no shiny side, then just keep the wheels pointed in the same direction.
Nice.